Although you might hear statements that Exxon has made, like all visible oil has been recovered, the way I address that is that if you put your hand over your eyes, all visible people in this room have left. And that's pretty much the way it is with this. Many homes that were closer to the rupture site were not evacuated. And as Ann will share her story, even when they called for information about whether or not is this a danger to myself and my family, they were told no, it was not. But as time progressed and illnesses become more significant, it's quite obvious that yes, if you were that proximate to not only the rupture site, but to the pathway of the spill, was run into the storm drains, was run across the highway, was very close to an elementary school. The school is still in session. Those children were not removed. A number of them were taken away by ambulance until the teacher said, hey, we can't do this. This is making us sick. There was no plan in place to try and address the issues for those sensitive populations. Seriously, if it hadn't been for a community resident that had noticed the pipeline rupture and been able to make the 911 call and to let them know, they wouldn't have known. And I hate to say it, but they almost act like it's collateral damage, because truly the economic and political benefits from this situation are the true drivers, not the safety and protection of the community. Wetlands have been contaminated, and once it gets taken up into the food supply, we have fish that we've seen with oiled gills and sores on their body. You saw pictures of the dead fish already. This is a major recreational area, and none of this information is being shared. One of our members happened to be there the day after the rupture and took a sample that did come back for over 30 hazardous air pollutants. So when they tell you that their readings show no levels of concern, the way I like to describe that is that if you set a net to capture an elephant, but yet a mouse can be dangerous for you, that mouse is going to run right through the net. And that's basically what it was with the air quality monitoring, that they monitored for very few toxic air components, and they monitored at a level, the parts per million versus the parts per billion that we know have chronic effects, and then told everybody, well, it was non-detect. Common sense tells us so many of these situations just can't simply be true, where they say that no contamination has occurred, but yet you can go out and you can see it, you can smell it with your own eyes, you know it's there. And then when they come back to do the follow-up, they show pictures that have been sanitized. The mainstream media oftentimes shows a story of everything is fine, but in actuality, you don't have to move very many rocks to see that, in fact, it's not fine.
I am a new grandmother, fairly new. I brought my daughter and my grandson home from the hospital to live with me in Mayflower in our house. The baby was about 3 months old, close to getting to be 4 months old, and my daughter called me. I was at work and said, Mom, I don't know what's going on. There's sirens everywhere. There's fire everywhere. It smells terrible here. You need to get home. So I left work. I drove home. She was in there frantically packing bags. She's packing her bag. She's packing the baby's bag. So we need to go. Mom, go pack your bag. We need to go. And I'm like, why? Did somebody tell us to evacuate? And she said, well, no. But they teach you in school. If you can see it, if you can smell it, you need to leave the area. And it was. As soon as I stepped out of the door, I almost threw up. It was putrid. The noxious smell of like a mixture of burning tires and asphalt. So I called the Mayflower Police Department. And the gentleman that answered the phone said, do you have oil on your land? And I said, well, no, I don't see any oil, but it smells terrible here, and we've got headaches. It's making us nauseous. Ma'am, if you do not have oil on your land, you do not need to evacuate. So I thought, well, if it's dangerous, someone will come tell us. They'll come tell us we need to leave. I went to the town hall meeting, which, thank goodness, we had them already in place to set something up. And I found out the list of chemicals that we had been breathing in. I found out all of the symptoms, which we had most of. And I was terrified. Immediately started crying, called my daughter, pack the baby, pack yourself, get out of the house as fast as you can. So they got moved out. 3 weeks, my grandson laid there 24/7, breathing in the toxic fumes. He is now, he was on 2 different respirators, a suction machine, because he would cough and then choke on it. So he had to be on a monitor so my daughter could watch for him all times, suction him out. Saw a lady from Exxon out by my driveway. And I said, we're sick, we're not feeling good. Why are we not being evacuated? She said, well, this will go away in a few days. It's not going to hurt you. It's below a level of concern. Well, apparently they need to rejudge their level of concern. After 5 months, I went to my doctor. I could not talk. I had lost my voice. I could not breathe. I felt like a fish out of water. But there's no air. You weren't getting oxygen. My lungs were infected. I was put on antibiotics, and my doctor told me, do not go back to your house. You find someone to live with, and you stay there. So, first of all, Exxon lies. So don't believe him, okay? Exxon will lie to you, right in your face, knowing I had a 3-month-old baby right there, breathing it in. They lied to me.
I live about 350 yards from the actual cove where all the almost 300,000 gallons pull. As we know, after just a couple days later, after the initial rupture, we had days and days worth of torrential rains. It flooded our wetlands going to the Pullon Creek that lead into the Arkansas River. It was flooding homes in the cove area where all the oil was. Would you like to know what they actually did to help relieve the water from flooding the people's homes? No, they didn't open a dam. They brought in a sump pump and was sucking water from the bottom of that cove where all 300,000 gallons of it pulled up with no filtration systems, pumping it across the street into our lake. I have 4 children. Their ages are 10, 9, 8, and 5. My 2 youngest children have had the most severe health issues since. They have had nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, joint swelling, skin rashes, severe migraines. It is ungodly. These are my children. I can't stand to see my children hurt. And a company that is responsible for it is not stepping up to help anybody in its path. It has been a nightmare to try and get the doctors to even notate that we live by an oil spill. I've even had doctors look me dead in the eye and say not a single one of these chemicals cause any health issues. Not a single one of them. Which, of course, I argued with that doctor. And you know what he told me? This appointment is over. You can go home now. I did have a representative come by my house from Exxon, handing out paperwork saying we'll accept any valid claim. But they didn't accept mine. And it was very valid. I can walk out in this cove as of today, put my foot in the mud, and you will watch oil globulets just rise from the soil. I went out with a friend of mine that did a sediment test, an independent sediment test. And she took a PVC pipe and we hammered it into the ground 3 feet deep. Guess what? Oil was coming out of the ground at 3 foot deep underneath the soil. I have determined that some people would rather believe an oil lie than the clean truth. They would rather believe what everybody else is saying instead of taking 5 minutes of their time and to go look at that code. You don't even have to stir anything up. It's still there. Exxon is blaming it all on manufacturer defect. Well, hold on a second. Let's really think about that. How long have you owned this pipeline? Isn't it your responsibility to run testing? Isn't it your responsibility to maintain these pipelines? So how are you going to accuse a company that is out of business and that is over 65 years old of your negligence? So we have to use the information that we gain against them. The more information we have to use against them, we kind of back them up to a wall. Then they're going to have to start speaking. Then, at some point, they're still going to lie to us. But we have to be able to prove fact over fact over fact. Hopefully, we can put a stop to this. We all have to stand up. We all have to work together. It's not just one person that's in this. Everybody is in this. Anybody on the route of this pipeline, we need to come together as one community and fight this company. Yes, it will put a target on our back, but if we win, we have triumphed and we have overcame one of the biggest companies in this world that hold so much power over us. And if we can do that, that is a justice, not for us, for the rest of the environment, rest of the people. We have to work. It's not going to be easy, but we have to work at this. We have to fight them.